What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today on Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit in Pathfinder 2nd Edition by patron request, we're going back to our Scared to Death builds. Now that more content is out, can we make it better? Can we make it scarier? Specifically with a little bit of Swashbuckler, a little bit of Marshal, jammed all in as one. We're here to find out. Remember, if you're liking what you're seeing, to like, subscribe, ding the bell. One of these days, I'll have poppable knuckles. Stay caught up on all your stuff. Remember that Patreon is the #1 way to support the channel. Gets you a Google Sheet where this character is built up, primed, and ready to go for you, as well as a bunch of other cool things. But for now, let's dive in. Okay, so quick refresher. Scare to Death. The ability of the hour, a 15th level skill feat. You gotta be legendary in Intimidation about it. For one action, attempt an Intimidation check against the will DC of a living creature within 30 feet of you that you sense or observe, and who can sense or observe you. If the target can't hear you or doesn't understand the language you are speaking, you take a -4 circumstance penalty, which is a pretty big one for this. The creature is temporarily immune for a minute. On a critical success, the target must fort save against your Intimidation DC or die. If they pass the save, they are frightened 2 and fleeing for 1 round. If they crit succeed that second save, nothing happens. On a success, they become frightened 2. On a failure, they become frightened 1. On a critical failure, the target is unaffected. Essentially, the big boy demoralized with extra steps at the very end of the game. We've done the math earlier, and near as I can tell from what I'm seeing, reading, and what I have been able to experience in 2nd edition, it remains somewhat the same. Optimizing full on into your strength and charisma and dumping everything into it for the purpose of rolling up to the scene, scaring people to death, will have mixed results based on the level of the creature you are throwing this at. Based on their wisdom and things that they get, the higher level they are versus your level, the less likely it is to pan out. A lower level creature may very well have a heart attack at the sight of your mere presence. And so today, much like last time when we're showing up and saying boo, the goal here is to make an Intimidation-based Marshal with this in its back pocket, because there is in fact a 1 on every die, there is in fact a 20 on every die, and debuffs make everybody in the party crit better. Today for our ancestry, we will be rolling up an Iruxi of the frilled variant, so we can, from jump, demoralize like wolves and rats and things, and threatening approach is also real neat. Stride up to be adjacent to someone, then demoralize it. If you succeed, the foe is frightened 2 instead of frightened 1. Gets us in range, gets us doing the thing we want to do, because indeed it's a braggart swashbuckler that we're rolling up today. The braggart gains panache during an encounter whenever they successfully demoralize a foe, so this is exactly what we want for the rich to keep on getting richer. For our archetypes today, we got 2 coming down the pipe. By the request, indeed, Marshal will be the first of them. Helps us do what we're doing, and gives us a cool aura to play with, which buffs ourselves out and debuffs the bad guys. Eventually, we will be taking the monk dedication as well. Talk about that in a sec. Warrior for the background today. Intimidating Glare is a little on the, well, extra side, given we can frill our frills out and not have to talk to people to scare them. So this will do us for now. For our ability scores at first level, we're looking at a strength of 16, dex of 14, con of 12, int of 8, wiz of 12, cha of 16. We definitely feel a little on the mad side, and it's unfortunate Swashbuckler can't have strength or charisma as a key ability score, but I guess here we are. The good thing about 2E is it's easy to get those numbers still almost as high as the rest of the field anyway, and we're debuffing, so my guess is we'll come out just fine. Now let's hit our class feats. First up, what I often hear is the coolest reaction in the world and par for the course for us, you're next. It's a reaction that procs when we reduce an enemy to 0 HP. After eviscerating someone, we remind that someone's next of kin, brother, best friend, pet dog, or whatever it is that soon they will join them in line to Pharasma's great soul passing out emporium. Attempt an Intimidation check, get a +2 circumstance bonus to demoralize the next thing you're going after. Legendary proficiency means eventually we'll get this as a free action when we kill things. Antagonize is next, sort of a 1-2 punch for some later adoption shenanigans. When you successfully demoralize a creature, its frightened condition cannot decrease to less than 1 at the end of its turn until it either uses a hostile action against you or can no longer observe or sense you for at least a round. painting the literal target on your head to get folks to come after you, as opposed to the tiny little wizard in the back row who might, like, break every bone in his body if the wind blows the wrong way. Then swaggering initiative for a +2 circumstance bonus to initiative and the ability to interact to draw a weapon, into combination finisher to get our Swashbuckler finisher strikes to have a lower map, ostensibly a -3 with the agile weapons we'll be throwing around, to again help balance out the fact that we don't have as much strength as others, we don't have the fighter's sweet legendary stabbing power. Y'all understand. Flamboyant cruelty comes next. When you make a melee weapon strike against a foe that has at least 2 of the following conditions, you gain a circumstance bonus to damage equal to the number of these conditions the foe has. The qualifying conditions are clumsy, drained, enfeebled, frightened, which is the one we do, sickened, and if you hit such a foe, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to skill checks to tumble through, meh, or to perform our style's panache granting actions until the end of the next turn, or a +1 circumstance to demoralize. Now, frightened is the condition we're handing out the most. We're going to need somebody else to do the clumsy, drained, enfeebled, sickened, or my guess is most parties will be able to find a way to do this in some way. Talk to your casters, have them prep spells appropriately. It helps you end combat's turns faster. If your casters don't understand why that's important, just stop intimidating. Stand out of the way. Let the, what are we fighting at level 8 that's scary? Let the creature level 8 insert here run past you and eat the wizard. They'll learn real quick, believe me. Next up, we'll take Daring Do. When we have Panache, we can roll twice and use the higher result on checks to which the circumstance bonus for having Panache applies, or advantage Intimidate forever. Swashbuckler really helps this build pan out without missing a lot of stuff. Will be adopted by, you've probably guessed, the Ancestry, we'll get there in a moment, but it's not halflings. Since the Swashbuckler has so many sweet fortune effects, that makes the loss of the reroll sting a little less. Next up, Reflexive Riposte for an additional reaction that can only be used when someone fumbles an attack against us. For our Opportune Riposte, getting a free melee strike against the triggering foe who we're debuffing by frightening. Gotta run back to the beginning real quick and grab Charmed Life as a reaction, get a +2 circumstance bonus to saves. Then Felicitous Riposte, so we're rolling with advantage when they rolled a bad roll against us, rolling twice and taking the highest on our Opportune Ripostes. Then Incredible Luck, the reason we had to run back and grab Charmed Life, because reroll your saves. See, there it is. Your saves, your skills, some of your attacks. Who needs to be adopted by halflings? You just gotta be cool like Swashbucklers. Next, Panache Paragon makes you permanently quickened, using the extra action to yell at people, which is always just so fun, you know? Anyway, on the archetype side, because of course all of these builds are free archetype from now on, the Marshal dedication at 2nd level, we will choose Intimidate to become an expert in that skill a level early. We also get that sweet Marshal's Aura. This feels very like Tome of Battle from 3.5 to me. It gives our allies a +1 status bonus to saves against fear, because indeed the enemies miscalculated, they should have feared us more. Into Dread Marshal Stance for 1 action. Attempt an Intimidate check, usually against a standard difficulty DC for your level, but the GM can assign a different DC based on how much innocent people blood is all over you and how much the wizard has learned his lesson about all those ghouls, I suppose, that have, like, beaten the brakes off him because he didn't do the thing you wanted. Blackjack Gaming does not approve abusing your casters to make them do what you want. On a critical success, your Marshal's Aura increases to a 20-foot emanation, and it grants you and allies a status bonus to damage rolls. That elusive status to damage equal to the number of weapon damage dice of the unarmed attack or weapon you are wielding that has the most damage dice. When you or an ally in the aura critically hit an enemy with a strike, that enemy is frightened 1. The aura size does not increase on a success, the stance doesn't work on a failure, critical failure you need to wait 10 rounds. Things that help the entire party get good, that also make you get good, are like my favorite thing. And this scales great with level. The more damage dice you're getting from runes, the bigger that status bonus to damage becomes. We'll take Rallying Charge next. For 2 actions, stride up to your speed and make a melee strike. If your strike hits and damages an enemy, each ally within 60 feet who saw you gains temporary hit points equal to your Cha mod that lasts until the start of your next turn. Is it a lot of healing? No. But this is a system that really wants us to take care of ourselves. Self-care is important. Watching the 7-foot reptilian warrior eviscerate the... What's on level for this? Cat. Black Dragon Gaming definitely does not approve of eviscerating cats. To invigorate everybody else, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And again, scales with level. Attack of opportunity on this side as opposed to the other side. Is it a reaction we'll use a lot? Maybe. Eventually we put them to fleeing, so hey, they run away, we punch them in the face, easy enough. And then next, a monk dedication, primarily because I want to get to Monk's Flurry just as soon as possible, to Flurry of Blows. Striking twice for one action when we like to run all over the battlefield to support our friends, scream at people so loud their heart stops. You know, it's just so nice. Back to the Marshal for everything else. What might be like my favorite archetype? I didn't know this was so good. Thank you, young Kitsune Kage, for requesting this video. I'm hooey! I like this a lot. For 1 or 2 actions, choose one ally within your Marshal's aura who has a reaction available. If you spend 1 action, that ally can use their reaction to immediately stride. If you spend 2 actions, that ally can use their reaction to immediately strike. What do you do with that? A lot. We'd be here for 4 hours if I sat here for 4 hours and told you about, well, like...
I guess you could have your wizard run away from what's an on-CR creature for this, some sort of dragon or something. Or you could have your barbarian punch them in the face with their great axe, and only the great axe is sharp and it cuts them in half and stuff. Or you could have someone move into a flank for you, or you could have someone move out of what is fireball formation, or you can move out of what is lightning bolt formation, or you can...
Right? See where I'm going with that? Easy peasy. Immediately after, we'll take Perfection's Path, choosing our fortitude saves, because we gotta take care of us too sometimes, you know, you gotta clean yourself, you gotta pamper yourself. And then Coordinated Charge, everyone's favorite. Haven't said this one in a while. Everyone attack it at once! For 2 actions, you stride up to your speed and make a melee strike. If you hit and damage the bad guy, each ally within 60 feet who saw you hit can use a reaction to stride, but they each must end their stride closer to the creature you hit than when they started. So, like, okay, maybe it's not everyone attack it at once, like it was on the Battle Scion back in the day. Follow this card right up here. It's my favorite Scald, and like one of my favorite builds I've ever done. But it is everyone get ready to attack it at once. Come over here, please. I'm assuming someone will be around to haste us, so we didn't do the cadence thing. And I don't know how many Marshals want to be adjacent to each other, so some of the Marshal things feel kind of meh. But something tells me steal yourself for 1 action. Choose 1 ally within your aura. That ally gains temporary HP equal to your Cha mod, then a +2 circumstance bonus to fort saves. Until the start of your next turn is at least enough to get like the bleeding out on the ground rogue up to stab, and then drop but go to wounded again. It's fine. It's the end of the game if we took this. It's a warrior's death. That's what we've given them. It's a good thing. Jeez. Lots and lots of skill feats to talk about this time. We don't normally do that, but here we are. Intimidating Glare feels super dead, but it's a thing we get for free. It lets us demoralize with a mere glare. We won't take a penalty for staring at wolves. Man, Barbarian would have been fun for this too, for Terrifying Howl. I suppose I could have forced it in, but it's fine. I really want to give people honorable deaths and not howl at the moon, I guess. Then, Intimidating Prowess, since we get Expert Intimidation a little faster. In situations where you can physically menace the target when you coerce or demoralize, like when we're doing violence on people, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to your Intimidation check, and you ignore the penalty for not sharing a language. If your strength score is 20 or higher and you are a master, this bonus increases to 2. Is it what it used to be? No, but it is still nice, so sure, why not? Then Terrifying Resistance. If you succeed at screaming at the wizard, because the wizard wouldn't do what you wanted against what's an on-CR creature for this? Snake. For the next 24 hours, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saves against that creature's spells for the next day. That dude probably is only going to live for like a minute, but hey, you know, just in case. Running all the way down now. Battle Cry. When you roll initiative, you can demoralize an observed foe as a free action. Or if you're legendary in Intimidation, whenever you crit succeed an attack roll. But mostly just get your panache started and get the debuff started before we're actually tracking things in combat. Seems really good. And a really good way to take what is, I assume, one of our best skills and make sure we are always rolling it for initiative. Combat starts, what are you doing? Screaming bloody murder. Terrifying Retreat. If you crit succeed at a demoralize action against a target whose level is lower than yours, they're fleeing for a round, which will then let us attack of opportunity. Then lastly, of course, Scared to Death. We already talked about it. It's the thing we want to do. We want to run up and go boo. For our Ancestry feats, out the gate we'll grab Razor Claws, our primary mode of damage, since we need to have an agile or finesse weapon, might as well use the one we have in house, right? I don't know. I like the flavor of claws going under someone's collarbone and then yanking out. And then on to the, okay, now we're there, you guessed it, hobgoblins, which will be adopted by Agonizing Rebuke. When you successfully demoralize a foe, that foe takes 1d4 mental damage at the start of each of its turns, as long as it remains frightened and continues to engage in combat with you, which I suppose means anything that's not fleeing or clearly surrendered. If you have master proficiency in Intimidation, it's 2d4, legends get 3d4, it's a dot. It's a dot that not a lot of things will have resistance to, but extra damage is as extra damage does. In 4 turns, that's what, 10 damage on average? When we get this at 5th, nothing to shake a stick at. Then it's Remorseless Lash. When you succeeded a melee weapon strike against a frightened foe, that foe can't reduce their frightened condition below 1 until the beginning of your next turn. We have a couple of ways to do this, a lot of different options to keep people scared for as long as possible. Next up, dumbest feat ever, Cantorian Rejuvenation. For 2 actions once a day, you get 46 HP back with 10 temp HP on top. That lasts for a minute. Eventually, this is 66 HP and 15 temp HP. The Cantorian Spring was a hell of a thing. I suppose if your people were created by a massive arcane, definitely not Lord of the Rings, that energy lasts with you for a while and passes to your adopted children. Then lastly, Scion Transformation. You take a 24-hour nappy, you perform a ritual, you get a permanent enlarge, your max HP increases by your level. Weird how that no longer gives a buff to Intimidate, but that's fine. More reach, more damage, more muscle. What more do you want? And for the general feats at the end, adopted by hobgoblins, of course, then shield block, because, well, we're yelling at people, they're probably going to want to do something about that. Then toughness, then die hard, then numb to death, because we're probably going to drop a lot, because we're yelling at people, and people tend to get mad when you do that. Real quick before we get out of here, our key items. First, our apex item will almost certainly need to be the Circlet of Persuasion, because we want to get our charisma as high as possible. And then the Dread Blindfold, a +3 item bonus to intimidation checks. The first time a particular creature sees you in a day, it has to succeed at a DC 37 will save or be frightened 1. Your allies become immune in about a week, so buy this in a timely manner before you go out and do stuff. It also lets you cast Phantasmal Killer sometimes, as if running up and going, boo, wasn't enough. But that's all the time I have. What do y'all think? Have we rolled up something like this? Demoralized builds seem pretty popular in 2e, so I'm guessing we have. Tell me all about it in the comments below. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. We'll see you next time.